Hello Dungeon Dwellers, welcome back to some more Legend of Keepers, where we will be playing the Slaveholder yet again. I had a quick test game with him, so he's level 19 now. Let's dive in. First of all, I have learned a new thing, which is that you can click this reset button here, and it doesn't penalize you at all. We can build a new Slaveholder or like a new boss man tree from the button up every time we want to play, so we can make different builds until I have enough points to fill up all the things anyway. So let's go through the Slaveholder. What's he all about? Well, he likes monsters. He's good with morale. Not so much with traps, which I don't agree with that. He's got decent traps. Not sure what qualifies here. And spells, well, his spells are fine. I'm not sure why these two are low necessarily. Like the Enchantress is certainly better with spells, but like he's got one skull in traps compared to the Enchantress with 3. I'm not sure. I like the Slaveholder's traps better than the Enchantress. I'm excited to try out this Engineer with maximum traps. I'm assuming with the Enchantress we get that entire extra spell room, where as a mini boss kind of thing. With the Slaveholder we will get like a real mini boss room, like an entire extra room dedicated to one massive monster. And so over here by the Engineer, I'm assuming we get like an extra trap room in the second year, which sounds really, really cool. I have trouble figuring out how that's going to work, but that seems really fun. So yeah. Anyway, let's build a new Slaveholder. I will recommend this rightmost tree first of all, and let me go through that one. It says here, when a hero is killed by a monster, gains a 10/20% chance to the group of monsters gain enraged 3. Now this isn't that super, but then I'm just going to put in the points. Training price of monsters reduced by 10 and then 20%. So we can train for cheaper. That's placed into his monster thing. Then he grants each monster in garrison a 15 and then 30% chance to get 1 additional motivation back after a dungeon. Buy into that. Not a big deal, but these are economy things that helps us throughout the 2 years, which is quite nice. Then we have a skeleton dog adding to the starting monsters. More monsters means more plundering and more business trips, stuff like that we can do, and just a better, wider selection of monsters for dungeon. This guy also does bleed damage, which I really like. The bleed build in this with the Slaveholder, and then we can replace the starting goblin, which the Slaveholder always gets with a starting vampire, which plays into the bleed build. So hell yeah! All right, so that's our first part of the build. Then it's a lot of skills here that I'm not sure if I go through all of them, but my main point here is that the Slaveholder is good for morale build, and I want to try building an actual morale build for you guys. So here is the morale tree out here. It goes intimidation, which is our slave masters here. One of his attacks actually does morale damage, and this one it does additional morale damage. So obviously you would want that. And then grants a 20% chance to apply Demoralize 2 with traps which deal morale. Not a big deal, but it adds to the trickle. So here, and that's just 1 point for each 20% chance of 2 Demoralize. Then the next one here grants 20% chance to apply Terrified 2 with monsters attacks which deals morale. Terrified is a flat 50% extra morale taken from all attacks and traps. So yeah, this is the morale tree. Then if we go over here, I believe no, there's no other morale stuff here, but this tree here is one that I particularly like. We have the master gains 1 and then 2 enraged each time he takes damage, and this I believe is an incredibly unbalanced trait. I'm gonna buy into that, or talent. Basically, this means that every time a hero hits my Slaveholder, and every time he takes passive damage from poison, burn, frostbite, and bleed, then he gets 2 more enraged. So basically, I mean, assuming all those things and an attack from each of the heroes, you can gain that 7 times 14 enraged per turn if they maximize their amount of DOT damage over time stuff. Which is insane. 140% extra. Like, just at the bare minimum, it's 30% extra damage and morale dealt increase per turn that you just stacks on. It's, if you think about it, 2 or 3 turns in combat with a few heroes, his damage and morale dealt shoots through the roof. And just like with the enchanters, we have an attack that when you deal damage, you restore an amount of, or regenerate amount of your own hit points based on the amount of damage that you do. So you can see the combo playing into that. The Whiplash regenerates the Master's Life by an additional 10/20% if the target is affected by bleeding. Hell yeah! And the Whiplash always only regenerates Master's Life when the target is bleeding. So, to double down on that, damage dealt by the Master to heroes affected by bleeding is increased by 10, then 20, then 30%. Maximize that shit for maximized healing and damage dealt by our Master. This is kind of insane. Oh, and I do kind of want this one here. We can't afford that right now. So let me reset and do that again. Oh no, this is the one I wanted to change. Boom, 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 boom. Masters gains 10% to all resistances is really, really good. So we'll be doing with 1 point in this this extra regeneration here. That's fine. And then build the tree over here. It's rather quick. Boom. Then, of course, hard mode. And this time we're going to enable modding and see where that takes us. I'm still not really sure about whether that actually works, but we'll try it out and see how it goes. So, continue. And here we are. It's going to be adventurous first, but always... Oh, well, it happens automatically when I click here. We still got a goblin. Oh, really? Okay, so some starting monsters are always randomized, but here's the vampire. I don't think you guys would have seen him before, since we didn't have him in the previous playthrough, but he's pretty good. His first ability here spreads the stack of bleeding applied to the target to the hero positioned behind the target. I had to learn this by doing that. It doesn't move the bleeding stacks applied, it duplicates the bleeding on the first guy and adds it to the next guy in line. So if you have 10 stacks of bleeding on the first guy, you duplicate that and add it to the next guy in the row, adding onto what bleeding that guy already had. And so the first guy still remains with the 10 bleeding. So if you can build up a lot of bleeding on the first guy, then you can suddenly copy it to the next guy in line and capitalize. And lo and behold, we have bleeding added to the first guy here as well. And the skeleton dog also here, it applies bleeding to the front liner. We have a gargoyle that can also do bleeding. So bleed build is a thing, and we have a trap. We always start with the same set of traps here. A circular saw, adding bleeding to everyone. Rallying horn, and a bone catapult, which is a morale trap, which is great. And you also have technically morale in the rallying horn. It deals morale damage, and in rage also allows you to deal more morale damage. So you can do full morale traps. For morale build in the monsters, we only start with the orc, who has a scream, and then we have a ghost, and right now we also have the skeleton makers and the gargoyles. So we do have a potential to do some morale damage if we really want, remembering that our master has also has a morale attack, and we just spent some talent points on getting more morale combos going. So we want to build, right now we want to build every room to be flexible in either dealing full-on damage or of dealing full-on morale build. That's how you want to set up your rooms. So let's try to see how we maximize that. I like having bleed, first of all, in the second room, because that almost guarantees that you can have a trap before it, which is quite nice. So bleed, bleed, and bleed, and we can technically add on more bleed in the first room here. Then we want to make sure that we have as much morale build in both rooms as possible. So here we have 2 morale creatures, and 1 and 2. So that's fine. That adds up to some good comboing. But you would preferably you want to stack as much of it in one room as possible, because they combo more when they do it together. So let's move one of them to the third room. So we have full morale build and full bleed build here, either going for morale or damage, or health damage I should say. And then in the first room we can move Rock here up, the boar man. He comes with a stun chant, which is quite nice, and he's a super hard tank, so he's really good. And so even if he doesn't do bleed and he doesn't do morale damage, you can combo him into these combos as well, because he can take away one of your opponent's actions, which gives the other creatures in our own ranks more time to do their thing. So he can sort of assist with any type of combo. The stun is only a 50% chance, so this is a bit of a wild card. But when it works, and when you hit it on a champion, it's amazing. Maybe we want him switched around, in fact, like this here. He is definitely better in the second room with it if you can get rid of a hero earlier in the first room or in the traps and leading up to room 2, then when you stun them in the second room, you might imagine having them already lost one hero. If you stun one out of 2 heroes, you're stunning a larger percentage of the enemy group, which is kind of cool. Alright, so morale, and this is into more morale build if we really want it. Then I think we have it set up as I want it. Here we have nature and nature. Not much else comboing, but it's all good. Yes. And the traps, we can't do anything here. Confirm. Let's dive into the first adventurer group. Should be an easy one. It usually is the first one. So here we go. We have the novice with the ice damage, and he removes penalties with the most stacks applied to all heroes at the start of the turn once. And then we have a thug dealing nature damage to the front and applies poison to the monster with the highest hit life at the start of each fight. And then the apprentice dealing fire damage and a bit of ice damage at the start of the fight. They all are pretty weak in armor, except this guy, but none of them dodge a trap. We could go for the circular saw. I think the circular saw might be better here. We would want them to bleed into this room, but it's gonna be tricky. They're gonna take 2 stacks of bleeding in here, then lose 1, and then they start this room. At least the thug goes before me, and so he would get rid of the final stack of bleed before we are allowed to add more bleeding onto him, but not the monk, and it kind of works out. So I will front load. Well, we could go for morale as well. Hold on. Maybe we should do morale just so I show you guys how that sort of plays out. And I think against the monk here, usually morale is really good. And yeah, I see they have overall they have less morale stacks or sustainability. So let's do that. Let's go rallying or demoralize catapult. Either one. Here we can stack more demoralize on, and the same here. No, this is more morale damage. The monk will still clear the demoralize penalty at some point through that fight, probably, but we gotta have him waste that ability anyway, so there's not much else to be said about that. Now we got fire and ice being hit at the front, and nature, so everything goes on the front guy here. Fire, ice, and nature is gonna be hard to find someone who can resist everything. Yeah, but the good old Yeti is not gonna live through that round, but he will tank for the morale damage dealers then. And then we will try to stack on as much as we can in terms of pure morale stuff in the back. I'm saving the demoralize stagger in the back line because he is clearly the best. Alright. Then we come in here, do rallying horn, which does a bit of morale damage, but also increases the amount of morale damage dealt by the rest of the fighters. Good, good. I want Gonk. Is that his name? Ronk up front. And yeah, he's got decent resistances, but all around we are going to be pushed around a bit here. Maybe he's not the right one then. We want the 2 morale dealers though. Then you could go with the skeleton dog, since it applies enraged to the 2 other guys, giving them more morale damage dealing. But the question is whether the skeleton dog is gonna be tanking enough for us. This would add the thug will add the poison to the orc, which is fine. He's got good resistances. Yeah, Then the Thug attacks the front line, killing it. So that's not how we want to do it. Even though he also has bad nature resistance, he's at least gonna live through the first attack from the Thug here. And then he will probably die to the fire dude, in fact. Which bounces the fire damage onto the next guy in line. This is gonna be rough. Now. But I have a feeling like we might even get rid of the novice here before he has his turn on this in this combat here. I think it's about as good as it gets here. Alright. And then we will definitely win with the Slaveholder. Okay, we get 2 turns at least. Oh, do we? Oh boy, maybe not. Oh, and this is kind of bad. Yeah, he removes the demoralize. But we've already dealt good damage. Yeah, but okay. We got rid of his ability at least. This is kind of rough. Are we gonna die in the first one? So we also have this spell in between here, which also does morale damage. So of course we're applying that here, and that's gonna add the terrified buff, which then means that my other guys will be doing even more morale damage. I think we are gonna live here. No, we will lose the front guy. Yeah. Alright. We can demoralize the backliner or just take a massive amount of morale away from the frontliner. Look at that. 39. Yeah. Can we make him not have a turn? No, he is gonna get his turn. That's too bad. But look at that. That's a really nice morale damage here. Oh man, we are about to take a nasty hit. But it can't be helped. Are we doing this? Yes. Then the orc will be able to scare away the novice at least. And then look at that, he runs! I think that's the first time I ever show the morale build on camera where we actually make someone run. So that's kind of cool. Then we make the next guy run. Then we lose the orc. And the ghost, okay. Maybe the life build would have been better. But at least we win and we didn't take much damage on the Slaveholder. So this is fine. It worked out. And here we go. We can get a more morale built in here with the Ice Skeleton. Or we can get the Gnoll here. The Ice Skeleton comes with ice damage. Frostbiting, which is nice. We could go for a skeleton build maybe later down the line. Would be kind of cool. The Gnoll is cool, but he is very dependent on other creatures comboing with him. Like he gains stuff if he hits people with Frostbite, which we can't deal yet, and then his passive gives him more resistances per hero affected by burn and Frostbite, which we don't have anything of yet. So while he might be good late game, I think the Ice Skeleton is generally better in the early game and more guaranteed to be good throughout the game, and he also comes with more opportunities to do a morale build. So I'm gonna pick him, and 97 gold does not compare to getting a monster early on. So go on. Good stuff. And then we're in it. So let's see. We get discounts on the trainer, and we do want to go to the engineer eventually, but with 460, it's kind of bad to start spending gold. It's better to go for an event, hope to build up more gold, or maybe get to spend gold on an event. But no, an employee has spilled a burning hot drink on you in front of the Blood Fay machine. Fuck my life. 60 damage taken. Okay, not a big deal. But of course, not as good as getting a positive event. Then innovation. The R&D manager has developed a new trap, and seems to be very proud of it. He wants to secretly sell it to you for a few gold coins. If you refuse, there's a chance that he might take it very badly. So we get another rallying horn. That's fine. You can absolutely have multiples of the rallying horn, and they both do morale damage. And sometimes we lose traps, so redundancy is not a bad thing. All right, merchant and therapist is kind of the same as before. We don't really want it. maybe we want to go to the therapist. It does come with a cost, but it allows us to get motivation on all of our guys that are missing motivation. So it's not a bad idea, but I like events. So let's go for an event. The Workers' Union has made a request, an anonymous suggestion box for the employees. Even if they can't write, the simple gesture will boost morale. They don't need to know what the suggestion box will empty straight into the trash. Plus 1 motivation for all available monsters. 150 for +1. It's kind of the same as at the therapist at that point. Is that worth it? I'm gonna go with probably not. Let's do it. Garbage chute. Let's do it. Okay. Because it gets most of our guys to 4, which means that they can suffer a death once without going into, what's it called? Burnout. Alright. Are we just ready? I think we are just ready because they added in the skeleton here. And what it does is it gives us more morale in the first room, and other than that the build is the entirely same as before. I like it, and it's just adventurous. Let's dive in. Maybe we can get 3 invasions in the first episode here. So, looks like mostly the same group. We got another novice, we got another apprentice doing the exact same, and then a magician here at level 2, dealing area fire damage, but also randomly moves monsters to another position at the start of the first fight. Alright. Should we... So the thing about... I didn't even show you guys that, but when we scared the first group away, we earn tears. And so now we have built up a bit of tears. If we kill heroes, that's when we get the blood resource. And ideally, you want a bit of both to maximize your use of the workout event coming later down the line. So let's try to kill them, this guy, is what I'm thinking. Oh, we got the sword just before the boss fight, which can work out, but in reality I would have liked to apply bleed just before my bleed room, obviously. Can we do enough bleed in this room here? No. No, we cannot. Okay, let me think. Sip some coffee and do this right. I think we are gonna just go for the damage. Well, we just got better at demoralizing, and all this fire damage is problematic. Because the build that we were doing just before had a lot of fire weakness, and now they have more fire damage. So, yeah, let me think this through. Let's just assume that we go with a trap here. A damage trap, and then see how much damage we can squeeze in this room. This guy is fire resistant, but ice weak. The Yeti will go after everyone. So if he's in the front line, he will die before he has an action, but he does do a ton of damage to the backliner here. So let me see if I can save him for later. Do we have any fire resistant guys? We do. So the skeleton makers will absolutely die to the novice, but he will survive until then. Yeah, so he can tank a bit for us and do fire damage to the backline, which is bad. So then maybe we go with the skeleton archer instead. Nature damage is, or nature resistance is quite good on them across the board though. So maybe we go with the goblin instead. The goblin is so weak, but can he survive these two guys doing a bit of fire damage? I think the answer here is yes. Oh, they randomly move my guys at the start of the fight. Right, I always forget about that, but here we remember it. So I think Goblin at the front would be nice. Then I want the Yeti not at the front, so we put him at the front because he'll be moved. Then the Gargoyle, the Goblin does physical damage to the backline or poison to the front. Physical damage to the backline is good. So we might even be able to really focus on the Magician here. Can we do more damage to the backline then? Oh, we can do area ice, which will do the same thing for us and applies Oh, that's not the one that applies frostbite. Never mind. But 18 ice damage to the back line, and she's got ice resistance, and so does he. Yeah. Okay, let me go with the skeleton archer, and then the goblin. He can shoot at the back line too, even though there's some nature resistance here. It might just be enough to murder the magician in this fight. We can do... Oh, this is to the front. Yeah, so no more damage to the back line. Ah, see, now we come into a room then where I don't have any damage on the back line. Except, oh, the ghost does do damage to the back line. Maybe we can kill him then. I think so. So here I should do the math. If I did the math, I could figure out whether or not we kill the magician before he even gets an action in this fight, and that would be rather important. I'm not gonna though. I have a feeling, my gut feeling tells me that if we put in the ghost in this fight, the magician won't get an action. So then we do orc, ghost, vampire. Yes. Or we could put in the skeleton dog instead of the magician. Sorry, the orc. That would boost the damage from the ghost, which might tip it to whether or not I'm right about the backline kill. 20% extra damage on top of the air weakness here. I think that's the safer play then, and then we also save the orc. This is bleed to the front, which is nice, because that allows the vampire to spread it. And in fact, since the dog is faster than the vampire, but the orc is slower than the vampire, it makes the difference in these two comboing together. So let's do it like this. I have a good feeling we will do a rallying horn before the boss fight. It does help the boss as well, so we get enraged 3 on our master. And I have no doubt in my mind that we will murder them here, but the question is whether or not we kill them in the second room. Which I don't think we will. Right. Physical damage to the back. Just try to focus down that magician. Let me do the math on this one attack. 50 ice damage minus 40%. Do we need the extra nature damage to the back line? He's taking 10 already, he's at 150. I mean, the poison arrow will probably just seal it, but I think I'm gonna go for the toxic volley area damage to spread out the love a bit. Oh, that means no extra action for the goblin here. Oh, do we... Oh, we get another action for the goblin. Alright, so then the magician is dead. Perfect. Not yet, but soon. So here we can do a lot of damage to the frontliner, and let's just get that done. Percentage damage on him is also quite nice. Now the ghost should go before the magician, but... Oh, the skeleton dog gets an area attack later. I thought maybe we could do the area attack here and that would be enough. But there's only one option for him. Then, of course, we are getting rid of that magician. Okay, and then the... Oh, can we get him low enough that we kill him then? I think he might die to the passives here, which is obviously better than letting him strike the skeleton dog. The novice there, yes sir, and then of course we will lose... Oh, maybe we don't? I think we will lose the dog. No, you're kidding me. Ah, he didn't die. Okay, close. The vampire survives, and that's the most important one. Alright. As he's the strongest unit we have by far. When we get the bleed combo going, he can do absolutely insane things. Oh, and we get a magic purse as the very first thing. Amazing. Like, this is a no-brainer. This will help us out throughout the entire run, and in fact, if we can level this one up quickly, this will just probably mean that's how you win a run, in my mind. The Crystal Skull, let me just go through the other ones, because they are cool anyway. This is how you do the skeleton combo. No, this is not how you do the skeleton combo. This Crystal Skull is just a base good item, because it has a 50% chance that monsters killed come back to life as a skeleton warrior, which doesn't sound like much, but when this triggers, it's amazing. And skeletons come in with 2 attacks, one of which do a lot of bleed. So, I would love to have it, but we still... and then this one here is amazing. Amazing artifact as well. Demons attack regenerate life by 15% of damage dealt. And so there's also an artifact that increases the damage that demons do. Having those two in combination and then a good amount of demons, you can imagine that would be pretty insane. Magic Purse is just too good to say no to, though. So we are going to get that one. And here we go. I say we go for another invasion in this episode. Another event here. The lab assistant is about to make some modifications to one of your traps. You know that he is always messing up and that the trap will be unusable. Fixing it will take 5 weeks. That's fine. Here we have the Fire and Forgive, which I don't know which one of them does what, and this is part of my critique for the game. I would like more information on what my things do. I'm assuming that Forgive means that I'm allowing this up here to happen. When I fire him, I don't think it takes the 3 weeks, but then probably there's some sort of bad stuff happening later down the line, maybe. Let's just forgive him and see if I'm right. Yes, that made it unavailable for 5 weeks. No problem, no biggie. Here we have Collectors, or an event. Collectors will allow me to sacrifice my master's health in order to gain money, modified by the Magic Purse. So yes, please, we'll take that. 120 life lost. And we regenerate pretty quickly with the Slaveholder, so it's not a problem. Then we have Trainer and Therapist. The Therapist would be good now. Look at that. I think this is the most I'll ever get out of the Therapist. But we have discounts on the Trainer. Oh, that's a tricky one. I think the Therapist is the right choice. Because there will be plenty of opportunities to train. And we don't have that much money yet. So we can probably train 1 or 2 monsters. Maybe 3. But then we go into 0 money, which I don't want to. So since this is the most I will ever get out of that Therapist, I'm gonna click it. I don't think I've shown you guys this one at all yet. So there's a few options here. You can play, let's see, your employees get a therapy session paid for by the company. Killing humans is a difficult line of work, and you often have to leave your conscience at home, particularly during torture sessions. This session will let your employees talk about their feelings and let out some steam. Motivation gain for all available monsters. And you can either spend a little bit of gold to get 2, or spend 20 tiers, which we can, or you can just thank them. And then you get +1 motivation for everyone for free. So is +1 enough to swing it? And would I pay 150 for +1 more? Let me see. They lose 3 motivation when they get knocked out. So +1 would be enough for Parietal here to go into being able to take 1 more down. They get healed for... when they go out and rest, I think they get healed for 2 motivation, plus extra chances of that happening because of my Slaveholder's talent. That's also something we gotta take into consideration. I think I'm not gonna pay. It would make, if I pay, it makes the Goblin able to take 1 more down, and so for the Wolf, but is that worth 150? Not really. No. We'll just take the free motivation, that's fine. And then the event. Additional budget. The lab assistant brought some brand new equipment without asking for permission. On top of that, he is now asking for further funds that were not planned in the initial budget. So here we have another one of those, where I can either lose 300 money by doing the thing that it says, or I can fire him and it doesn't tell me what that does. Right? I would like some into the, like, added into the text up here, like at least like a hint at what could happen if I fire him. So we're gonna try to fire him, because 300 gold is quite a bit. So then there was no penalty, at least not visually, right? There might be some penalty later down the line, as we have learned. Okay, then we are going into a proper veteran group here. And we didn't do any upgrading since the last time we were here, and let's see, my slaveholder is almost at full health. I think we will be able to beat them regardless of what we do here. The only question is whether I should, like, I might want to take out the Yeti for some motivation gain. Because we don't need him, need him. He of course helps us, but it's not like game breaking whether or not we have him, and having him go into burnout would be quite bad. This way we get him to rest up. We can't take out the ghost because we need the morale potential. So 1, 2 morale units, and then 1, 2, and 3 morale units here. And the Ronk can play into morale build as well, so can the skeleton dog with his enraged giving ability. So I'm just going to confirm this, and it looks quite decent. This early on, I think my master will be able to carry the fight even if we fail with the rest of them. So this does look a little bit scary. We don't get the trap before the fight here either. Oh, we don't have the morale trap right now, but we could do double rallying horn for morale build. So let me look it through here. We have a monk here, which now, if you look at the morale, it's significantly easier to take him down with the morale build. But the exile here, which is a new guy, I think. I don't think you guys have seen this guy before. He throws air spears to the backline and applies tiredness. And then he came with a skill that heals one hero's maximum morale back after a fight, or 50% of it once. So like the healer, but with morale. And then we have a tracker in the backline here who dodges the effects of the first trap, and also in general just takes less damage and morale from traps. Alright, so she doesn't like traps at all, apparently. Alright, and she does fire damage to the backline. Alright, so air and fire in the back and frost in the front. We can do frost in the front easily, so this seems like a no-brainer. Even this regardless of what build we're doing. This is just a good tank, and I think we might want to go for morale still. Let's try to build that. Air and fire in the back. That's going to be the skeleton magus. And so then the gargoyle goes in the center with also morale. Demoralize and demoralize. Which means that the monk will probably start his turn with the skill, removing all the demoralized stuff. Which sucks. But it has to be triggered at least once before we can get rid of that skill. I don't think we can do morale damage enough to power through them. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. It does not look like that is the case. So then we come into 2 rallying horns. So rallying horn here. And then terrify here, which does apply quite a bit. Then we come in here with the ghost, orc screaming with morale as well, and then a stun chance or extra enraged. Is that gonna be enough morale damage? We are gonna do quite a bit here. Let me think about it again. If I go for pure damage, how would we maximize our damage output here? She has nature penalty, this lady. I still think the 2 skeletons are a no-brainer because we need the tankiness. Like, it gets us basically 2 turns with everyone if I do the tanky guys in the back and the front. So we can do full-on skeleton setup like this, which doesn't actually do anything in particular. Except it looks cool. And I think this is kind of good. Nature in the back is going to be good against this tracker here. So is this what we're doing? Oh, he's got even better resistances against the 2 backline attacks, which is just gonna play out perfectly for lasting even longer in the fight. You do fire damage to the back, which is bad against the Fire Lady. I still think like morale might be better. This doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but let me set it up in the other room then. Circular Saw, no, Rallying Horn here. And then we would go with Orc, Fire and Air in the back means Vampire or Ronk. I think this is the way you would set it up. Problematic here. Yes, it is kind of problematic. Why? Because we don't apply bleed before the vampire's turn, which means that his first ability seems a little bit silly. And the air damage, while also good, is also reliant on bleeding. Then the orc gets to go and apply bleeding to the front, but we could do this instead, except the skeleton dog would die right quick to the backline damage. We would kill the novice quite quickly here with this whole damage output we've got going. That's a lot of fire damage to the back though, and we've got fire weakness here. Everyone here has fire weakness, so that isn't something we can play into necessarily. We will be able to get one action out of the Boar Man here. So let me look at it again. Is this gonna be enough? I think the novice dies in the first round in this fight. Because he's got weakness to the armor damage that we'll be doing and air damage here, and then this guy breaks the armor of people. Not that that matters, but he's gonna do quite a good amount of damage as well. Tricky, tricky. And up here, the thing is we don't do a lot of damage in the first room at all. Is morale build gonna be better? Here we will do, we do the flame whip in the spell room on the monk as well, which again will do quite a bit of work for us on this guy. He's got low fire resistance. So I think the monk does go down here, like I said, and then we only have to do as much damage as we can to the other 2 guys, and then the master will be able to beat them. The question that remains, would morale build be better? That's the eternal question here, and I think since we've got a morale healer in here, it's too risky. So I'm gonna go with no. Then Circular Saw here applies bleeding to everyone before the boss fight, and since we are reliant on hitting people with our bleed, I don't think I showed you guys the attacks in here. But we got the morale damage, and then we have the area air, which applies bleeding to everyone, which sets up to the first attack here, which is a ton of physical damage, but also regenerates 30% of damage dealt if the target is affected by bleeding. So yes, this is how we do it. Good. Even though he's got resistance to it, we are gonna be doing the... That's not a lot of damage. We do probably more. This is 18 times 3 is 18, 36. Then math is hard, 80, 42, 52 total, but modified more by resistances. Except this one also does frostbite. 5% of maximum health twice, which with 45 resistance means about 5% of his maximum health total. We can see 5% of 348, 5% of 300, or 100 is 5, then 15 for 300. In total, I think the frozen arm adds up to more damage, and we want to focus down that monk for the... yeah, because that's what we are doing in the second room. So here I'm doing area poison damage. then we can either do only morale damage or some damage to the back line. So let's do that. I really thought we would get 2 actions out of that guy in the back line, so I'm a little bit disappointed there. We have not had him use his skill yet, which I kind of was hoping he would have used that on the poison. I'm assuming that he's gonna do that then the next round here. Do we get an extra shot out of the skeleton? Oh, that's a 1 HP, yes! Totally calculated that. Alright. I think the monk is gonna use his ability here, yes, and that was rough, but we apply more frostbite to him. And so he will be taking his percentage damage for a little while. Here we do the flame whip. Good. Alright, can we kill the monk on his turn? Let's see, he's got the we can either do physical or air, and they do the same amount of damage, so then air does more in this case. I hope that he dies to the 2 passives then. I don't think it... Oh yeah, I think he will. Yes, perfect. Alright, and so then we can cleave here on the next guy in line, which is important for the rest of the play here. Alright. Do we try to stun him? I think he might die to the vampire, so there would be no point in stunning him. Let's just give him the armor broken so that he gets even lower into armor damage here, and then yeah, we can kill him and spread the current bleed stacks to the next guy in line. This is how the vampire enables the bleed build. So unfortunately we still lost the vampire, and I think we will lose the orc. It was so close to being like a pure victory here. Like the lady won't even make it to the master. Oh, she does. Never mind. And then she dies. Alright. At least we took no damage on the master then. We can get the best morale damaging trap in the game. Or, again, the knoll is a possibility. The knoll is really good when you have the full compo with him, which we don't yet. We are applying frostbite now. And to the front line, which is where he wants it the most. So it's not a bad idea. But this pile of bones is how you do the morale build. It does a lot of morale damage and ricochets to the hero position behind the enemy, behind the target if the target is affected by demoralized, which in most cases we will of course set it up so that will be the case. And then this one will just do a massive amount of morale damage. I'm gonna grab that one. Alright, so now our guys are not that motivated. And ironically now we would really want that therapist, which I never enjoyed before. Here, now, we are at 750 gold, which means that it is time to start spending a bit. And we can go to the engineer and upgrade some of our traps. I really want to upgrade the circular saw. This is what enables the bleed build. Oh, it doesn't go up into more bleeding yet, but it will at level 3. We need that. And then for total morale build, I think the bone catapult is slightly better, but also more expensive. Is that right? This does 10 more per. This will do 15 more per. Oh, even more, 20 more for one use. Because morale from the moralize stacks exponentially. So bone catapult. And since we don't want to go to the engineer that often, I'm going to spend again. And since we have 2 rattling horns, let's level one of them so one of them gets a little bit better. 20 morale damage extra here is not that big of a deal, but it's the same here, 10 extra. So if we can level the rattling horn to level 3, then it applies enraged 3 to the next 2 groups of monsters, which at that point it becomes really damn good. Alright, and then engineer again, or plunder. Obviously we're doing plunder here. Here we can get some motivation back. Here we spend motivation to get a guaranteed monster. I think that's the one we're doing. With no risks of injury, by the way. And here we have a risk of injury with extra morale. And next dungeon we get enraged 3 for all monsters, but that does not compare to getting a free monster. For volunteers losing motivation, well, it's what it is. It's fine. And we get another morale monster, the Naga. Let's have a look at the Naga for good old reference. This is one of the best morale monsters in the game. Primarily because when it upgrades, it will be able to stun people with low morale when it hits them. So that is quite nice. So, collectors or event. I'm going to go for collectors since we are modifying that with the magic purse. I'm just going to pay with my own life again. We got away with it in the previous run, so why not do it again? Black market allows us to sell monsters, but I don't think we have enough monsters to start selling them off. Here we go with an event. And everyone gains motivation because it's a public holiday. In memory of the great victory of the Sunset Tundra clans over the realm of Norbumpkin. Today is a public holiday. Your employees get a well-deserved day off. Motivation for all available monsters. And I just realized that we were supposed to enter this episode, but I can't stop playing. Alright, so here we go with the end of the episode, folks. So I hope everyone will enjoy the Slaveholders run. We'll start the next episode right off with some adventurers then. So yeah, I see you guys around, and bye-bye.